Hello, are you ready to learn for today? Today we will be studying about simplifying radical expression, and this will be the first part because we'll still study different laws of radicals to simplify radical expression, but ito na nga yung una. Ayan. So to start, let's recall that previously on our lesson, we studied about identifying the roots of radical expressions with radicands that are perfect squares, perfect cube, power of 4, perfect power of 5. And ito nga yung isa sa mga example wherein, for example, meron tayong square root of 4. Yan, we identify the square root of 4 using the given table of perfect squares. Ano ba yung number pag in-square ko, lalabas ay 4. So that is the time wherein we have an answer that is equal to 2. 'Di ba? Then, if we are asked to identify the square root of 36, ayan, ito yung 36. Ano ba yung number na na-square natin para makuha yung 36? That's equivalent to 6. Now, these are examples wherein our given radicands are perfect squares. But what if we have a case wherein ang given natin na radicand o yung number dun sa loob ng ating square root ay hindi perfect square. For example, this one, square root of 44. Now, kung titignan mo tong list ng ating mga perfect square numbers, ayan, wala naman dyan si 44. Diyan ngayon papasok yung lesson natin, which is simplifying radical expression. Let's try to simplify square root of 44. Now, according here, it says that the strategy to simplify radical expressions is to express the radicands as a product of two factors such that one factor is an exact root or a perfect nth power. Then we have to use this law of radicals. So, ito daw yung gagamitin nating law. The nth root of x times y is equal to the nth root of x times the nth root of y. Ngayon, para malaman natin kung paano natin magagamit itong law na ito, let's try to simplify square root of 44. So, step number 1 is for us to factor this given radicand 44 to its perfect nth power factor. Then, after that, choose the factors with the highest perfect nth power factor. Yan. So, para mas madali natin may apply muna natin yung salitang factor. Ayan, ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng factor? Iisip ka ng dalawang number. Pag pinag-multiply mo, ang sagot ay 44. So, you could start with 1 times 44. Ayan. Pwede rin yung 2 times 22. That's also equal to 44. And lastly, we could also have 4 times 11. Ayan yung mga numbers na pag pinag-multiply mo, 44 ang lalabas. At ayan nga ang factors ng 44. Now, it says here that we are to find its perfect and power factor. So, dapat daw isa dun sa mga factors ay perfect square. So, bakit square ang hinahanap natin? Kasi square root yung tanong natin. So, dapat yung mga factors daw merong perfect square. At kung titignan nyo, ito yung mga perfect squares natin. So, dapat isa daw dun sa mga factors na pipiliin natin ay dapat may perfect square. Now, we can consider 1 times 44 kasi nga nandyan si 1. Si 1 ay perfect square. Ngayon naman, 2 times 22, hindi natin pwede makonsider yan dahil nga between 2 and 22, wala naman sa kanilang perfect square. Then, we can also consider 4 times 11. Kasi nga, ayan o, si 4 ay perfect square. So, 1 and 4 are both perfect square. So, we can consider, ayan, these two given factors. Although, it says here, ayan, sinabi din dito na ang pipiliin mo daw pairs of factor ay yung merong highest perfect and power factor. So, in this case, yung may pinakamataas na perfect square factor. In this case, ayan, si 4 times 11 yung pipiliin natin kasi ang may pinakamataas na perfect square factor ay si 4. And then after that, we will try to rewrite square root of 44 into square root of 4 times 11. Ayan. So, magiging ganito na yung itsura niya. So, parang yung x dyan ay yung 4 and then yung y dyan is yung 11. At ang gagawin lang natin to apply this law of radical, ito, Yang gagawin lang natin is paghiwalayin lang natin yung 4 tsaka yung 11 in such a way that it will look like square root of 4 times the square root of 11. Now, in this case, we can identify the square root of 4 because 4 is a perfect square. We can say that square root of 4 is equal to 2. Therefore, it will just be equal to 2 times square root of 11, wherein we can write this one as 2 square root of 11. Gets po? Ayan. So, let's try another example. Ang problema kasi natin dito is actually paghanap ng factors. Especially, dapat yung isa perfect square. So, ang gagawin natin ngayon, paano tayo magkakaroon ng factors na perfect square? So, let's have example number 2. We have uh, square root of 32. Once again, 32 is not a perfect square. So, isi-simplify din natin itong example na ito. So, to start, let's somehow identify the factors of 32. Ano ba yung mga possible factors ni 32? So, dapat yung isa dyan, perfect square. So, let's try to identify the factors of 32. So, we can start with 1 times 32, di ba? And then for us to identify the next following factors na merong perfect square, yan, gamit tayo ng calculator. Yan, let's start with, ano bang susunod sa 1? Ayan, susunod sa 1 ay 4 sa mga perfect square. So, okay tayo with 1. Try natin sa 4. Now, paano mo malalaman kung factor ni 32 si 4? Yan, pwedeng alam mo na or kung gusto mo malaman, you can divide 32 divided by 4. That's gonna be equal to 8. At dyan, kung mapapansin mo, ayan, may whole number na sagot, which is 8. So, we can say that 4 times 8 is equal to 32. Now, therefore, we can say another pair of factors would be 4 times 8. That's equal to 32. So, okay na tayo with 4. Try naman natin kung pwede maging factor si 9. So, ayan, divide mo naman si 32 kay 9. Kung mapapansin nyo, ang magiging sagot is either a fraction or a decimal. That means 9 is not part of a factors or factors of 32. So, hindi pwede si 9. Try naman natin si 16. Yan. Kasunod ni 9, 16. So, divide naman natin si 32 kay 16. And as you can see, ayan. Ayan. As you can see, if you divide 32 divided by 16, the answer is equal to 2. Therefore, we can say that 16 times 2 is equal to 32. 16 times 2. Now, ang hinahanap kasi natin dito is yung may pinakamataas na perfect square factor. So, pwede ka pang mag-divide sa 25. Yan. Pwede mo pang i-divide yung 32 sa 25 para malaman kung factor nga ba ni 32 sa 25 pero hindi na yon ang lalabas. Yan, hindi na siya factor. Yan, hindi na siya pwedeng umabot ng 36 kasi nga mas mataas na yung 36 sa 32. So, mag-stop na tayo kay 16 times 2. And as you notice, hindi naman natin gagamitin lahat yan. Ang gagamitin lang natin dyan is yung may pinakamataas na perfect square factors. And as you compare between 1, 4, and 16, ang may pinakamataas na perfect square factor ay si 16 times 2. So, that means yan yung gagamitin natin na factors ni 32. So, we can rewrite square root of 32 into square root of 16 times 2. Wherein, pwede na natin gamitin yung law of radicals na nakalagay dito sa gilid. Ayan. Ayan, pwede natin paghiwalayin yung square root of 16 times 2 into square root of 16. Ito, times the square root of 2. And then after that, we can get the square root of 16. The square root of 16 is just equal to 4. Ito siya, di ba? Ayan, ito yung 16 eh. So, square root of 16 is equal to 4. Therefore, we can write this one as 4 times the square root of 2. Si 2 ay mananatili lang sa loob dahil siya ay nakasimplify na. So, we can write this one 4 times the square root of 2 into 4 square root of 2. Gets po? Ayan, magsagot pa tayo ng iba pang examples para mas maintindihan pa natin. So, let's have the third and fourth example. This time, ito, yung number 3 natin. We have the given 5 square root of 72. So, ganun pa rin yung gagawin natin since square root pa rin siya. We'll still be looking at the perfect squares or dapat makahanap pa rin tayo ng perfect square factor or yung pinakamataas. So, yan, let's try to identify the factors of 72. So, kung makikita nyo, meron diyang 5. So, wag muna natin pansinin. Mamaya makikita nyo kung paano natin may apply sa kakaibang example na to, yung 5 na nasa labas ng radical sign. But this time, let's simplify first the square root of 72. So, let's try to identify the factors of 72. Yan. So, let's start with 1 times 72. Kahit hindi naman yan yung magagamit natin. Just so we have a strategy on identifying the perfect square factors of 72. So, try naman natin siya sa 4. Ayan. So, sa 4, divide natin yung 72 sa 4. So, 72 divided by 4. Ayan. As you can see, it will be equal to 18. That means we can say that 4 times 18 is equal to 72. Ayan. So, ayan na yung pangalawa nating perfect square factor, si 4. So, 4 times 18 is equal to 72. Next, try naman natin kung pwedeng factor si 9. Yan, so we can divide 72 to 9. So, that's gonna be 8. That means we can say that 9 times 8 is equal to 72. Yan, tandaan, hinahanap lang natin dito yung mas malaki, pero iniisa-isa na natin siya just in case na yung nasulat natin, siya na yung pinakamalaking perfect square factor. So, 9 times 8. Next, try natin. Can 16 be a factor of 72? So, let's divide 72 to 16. So, as you can see, magiging fraction or decimal yung lalabas. So, that means 16 could not be part of the factors of 72. Next, let's try 25. I think hindi rin naman ito. So, 72 divided by 25, hindi rin pwede. So, try naman natin yung 36. Yan. So, let's divide 72 to 36. We can see that our answer would be equal to 2. That means we can say that 36 times 2 is equal to 72. Ayan. So, 36 times 2 is equal to 72. Ayan na ba ang pinakamalaki nating perfect square factor, si 36? Tingnan natin. Ayan, si 36 na ba? Tingnan natin. Try natin sa 49. Hindi na. Ayan, fraction or decimal. Try natin sa 64. I doubt yan. So, I think 36 times 2 would be the highest, or 36 would be the highest perfect square factor. So, that means, ayan na yung gagamitin natin as the factors of 72. Si 36 times 2. So, right now, we can write 5 square root of 72 into 5 times the square root of 36 times 2. This time, yan, gagamitin natin ulit itong law of radical. Paghiwalay natin yung square root of 36 times 2 into square root of 36 times the square root of 2. Kaya ang magiging itsura niyan ay parang ganito. So, kung sinama na natin yung 5 sa paghihiwalay. So, 5 times the square root of 36 times the square root of 2. Now, this time, we can now simplify square root of 36 and we can have the square root of 36 which is equal to 6. Ayan. So, pag sinulat natin sila ulit, magiging 5 times 6 times the square root of 72. Oy, no, square root of 2. Ayan. So, kung mapapansin nyo, pwede nating i-multiply si 5 tsaka si 6. So, 5 times 6 is equal to 30. That means our final answer would be 30 square root of 2. Gets po? Ayan. So, for this following examples, example number 1, 2, and 3, these strategies are applicable if the given question is a square root. Kung ang isi-simplify natin ay square root. Pero paano naman kapag cube root katulad nitong number 4? Now, this time, we have the question cube root of 128. So, that means gagamit naman na tayo ngayon dito ng perfect cubes. Ngayon, 128 is not a perfect cube. Kung mapapansin nyo, ang pinakamalapit na perfect cube sa kanya ay 125, although hindi siya perfect cube. That means we can still simplify cube root of 128 by identifying first the factors of 128. Once again, hindi na tayo gagamit ng table ng perfect square dahil cube root na yung tanong. Ayan, so what are the factors of 128 na dapat yung isa ay perfect cube? So, dito ka na ngayon titingin sa mga perfect cube. So, let's start with 1 times 128, di ba? And then, after nyan, okay na tayo kay 1, tunod natin kay 8. So, katulad lang din ng ginagawa natin kanina, let's try dividing 128 to Yung susunod na perfect cube is 8. So, divide natin. Possible ba? Yes. So, we can say that 8 times 16 is equal to 128. So, yan yung susunod na perfect cube factor niya. So, 8 times 16 is 128. Next, try natin. Pwede kaya siya kay 27? Check natin. So, let's divide 128 to 27. So, 128 divided by 27, as you can see, fraction or decimal yung lalabas. So, 27, hindi pwede. 64 kaya pwede. Tingnan natin. Ayan, 64. Okay, so it's gonna be equal to 2. That means we can say that 64 times 2 is equal to 128. Ayan. So 64 times 2 is equal to 128. Ayan na ba yung pinaka malaking perfect cube factor ni 108 ay 128? I think yes kasi yung susunod 125 na eh. Hindi na siya pwede maging factor ng 128. So that means katulad lang din kanina, ang pipiliin nating set of factors would be 64 times 2. Kasi siya yung merong may pinakamalaki na perfect cube factor which is 64. Yan, in this case, we can now rewrite cube root of 128 into cube root of 64 times 2. Then katulad lang yung law of radicals kanina, pwede natin paghiwalayin cube root of 64 times cube root of 2. That means we can simplify or get the root of or get a cube root of 64. Yan, ang cube root ng 64 ay 4. So we can write this one 4. Ayan, so we can say that 4 times cube root of 2 na lang yung matitira. And if we multiply them, we will end up having the final answer which is equal to 4 cube root of 2. Gets po? Ayan, so para malaman nga natin kung nagets nyo nga or naintindihan nyo nga talaga yung mga examples na ito, let's try to practice. So you try. So I have here 4 different examples for you to try. Ayan, I'll be giving you 5 seconds to somehow pause the video and answer this 4 different radical or simplify these 4 different radical expressions. And then, after 5 seconds, pwede nyo nang i-play ulit para makita yung tamang sagot. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're done. So, ito na yung sagot sa apat na examples na ito. Ayan. So, tingnan ng mabuti kung saang part kayo nagkamali. Ayan ang susundan natin or susunod nating titignan kapag ka nagsagot or nag-simplify ulit kayo ng mga katulad nitong radical expressions. I hope you understand the lesson for today. Until next time, bye!